Today I want to talk about some superlatives that include Justin Fields and his relationship with Garrett Wilson and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to give you some takeaways from this week of college football in which we saw some outstanding play. We saw some miserable play. But I think at the top of the list is Indiana's upset of number 8 Penn State in overtime, in which Michael Penix Jr. stretches out to get the length to win the game 36-35 over James Franklin's Nittany Lions in a game that they had won that should have never gone into overtime if Devin Ford just, pulls up before going across the goal line in a play where Indiana's like, by all means, sir, part the Red Sea, walk through. And then you have, of course, Michael Penix Jr. doing what he did. But, man, how about we just give some love, not just to Tom Allen, but to WAP, who needs his own music video. Now, I don't think that anybody expected Penn State to be good, but I don't think you expected them to lose to Indiana. Now, this also is acting like we're not talking about Indiana as if they're good. They are good. I think that they're decent to good. I think 9-win Indiana would be on the schedule in a normal year. But knowing that the Nittany Lions are going to have to pick this up and figure this out before they got to play Ohio State in the toughest game of their season at home, it's not where you want to be if you're James Franklin. I understand he does not want to continue to litigate Devin Ford not taking a knee, but Devin Ford takes a knee, you get a W out of that, and we get undefeated Penn State versus undefeated Ohio State in a game that absolutely matters. Now we're talking about Penn State, whether or not they're even going to be a top 25 team. They will be because the voters are cowards. But that also leads me to rank Rutgers, rank Indiana, and rank Arkansas, you cowards, because that's where I'm at. Meanwhile, while there are certainly some questions to be asked about Ohio State's defensive line, Ohio State's offensive line, Ohio State's running backs, you can ask no questions about how good Justin Fields is in man-to-man coverage if you give him Chris Olave, if you give him Garrett Wilson, and if you give him Jackson Njigba Smith. Goodness me. Had 2 receivers with over 100 yards receiving, and Njigba Smith, I keep just flipping the hyphenate, and it's late at night. I just got done doing 3 hours of radio with Brad Edwards, which is awesome. I got to talk about the World Series, got to talk about college football, I got to talk about the NFL. I'm having a good time. I'm also having my tea. All to say, I don't see why Nebraska decided to run man-to-man against Justin Fields because he's shown you that he's going to torch you if you just want to run single high against him, especially knowing that he's got better wide receivers than you have defensive backs. I can't wait to see what Justin Fields looks like against Penn State because I also think that's going to be the best defense that he faces before he gets to Don Brown in Michigan. Going 20-21 for 276, we'll take that every day, all day, right? Now, thinking about Michigan and how they played a complete game. They look crappy to start the game, but then they put the clamps down and they ran the score up. That's what you want out of a Michigan team. Joe Milton actually looks like he knows how to operate that offense, which is what I've always wanted from a Josh Gaddis, Jim Harbaugh offense. Just look competent. They don't have a name at wide receiver just yet, but that person's going to develop because this is college football. But you also have an outstanding offensive line. Don Brown knows how to coach defense, and Dax Hill is their best player, and he plays safety. Now, he's getting comps to Jabril Peppers, but I think that is doing Dax Hill a disservice because I am from Tulsa, and I know the Tulsa boys smack. And that boy went to Booker T. Washington, and he is the most bestest pure football player I've ever seen in my entire life. Yes, let him play both ways. I'm telling y'all, if Michigan's undefeated when they get to play Ohio State in the game, I'm going to be happy to talk about it, just as I'm happy to talk about, good Big Ten football, which means I got to talk about Rutgers. Put 38 up on Michigan State, having a 300-yard pass that they still were able to get 6 turnovers off of. Greg Schiano, who apparently is magic if you just stick him in State University in New Jersey. If that's what happens, then apparently they're going to be good. On the other hand, Mel Tucker and Scotty Hazelton also getting cooked by Greg Schiano for 38 points. That ain't what you signed up for in East Lansing. That's not what you wanted. Then we got to talk about Iowa Purdue. Purdue without Rondale Moore. Yeah, that's all we got to say about Iowa and Purdue because that's how much they actually matter. Oklahoma State is undefeated, which means that Oklahoma State is one of the 6 best teams in college football, which doesn't seem right. It's a close game against Iowa State, 24-21, but that Iowa State team also lost to ULL, but that Iowa State team also beat Oklahoma. And I think if you were actually going to match Oklahoma against Oklahoma State, you would still pick Oklahoma based on talent alone, especially if Spencer Sanders is your starting quarterback, and it looks like Mike Gundy wants to continue to run Spencer Sanders as starting quarterback, even as Shane Illingworth is not that great. But you know what? Do you, Mike? You already cut the mullet off. Maybe you're trying to turn over a new leaf. We'll see. I doubt it, but we'll see. And as long as you got Chuba Hubbard back there, good things will happen as your defense continues to come along. Don't know what the hell to think about Notre Dame, except that I would like to see them play against Brigham Young in a New Year's Six Bowl. But as Brad Edwards pointed out to me, look, can't take for granted that BYU just gets a New Year's Six Bowl berth because they're an independent and they don't have a bowl tie-in contract with one of those conferences. So they'd have to be an at-large bid by, the selection committee. It's going to take a lot, and their schedule just doesn't actually have a bunch of teams on it that we respect, so they could go undefeated and have a UCF type of, ending to their season. I don't think anybody actually wants that for them, but it's what it is because it's Brigham Young, and y'all not playing a Mountain West schedule, and y'all don't play in a Power 5 conference, and that's on y'all. It's why Notre Dame probably makes the college football playoff anyway, but especially if they beat Clemson here in 3 weeks. So I'm really interested to see if this Notre Dame team that is going to be pounding the ball and playing defense has it to go against the Clemson team that looked shook against Syracuse. 47-21 in a game in which they were supposed to cover the spread by 46. Now, we could all say that Clemson was going to mail in one game and the Syracuse game could be the one. I think they started 5 true freshmen on defense for Syracuse, even as they had their All-American safety opt out because, he hurt himself, which is what we all thought you should be afraid of if you are opting in. But Rashad Bateman seems fine. Justin Fields is fine. Sean Wade's fine. Wyatt Davis fine. On the list goes of the dudes that decided they wanted to play college football in this year where they're probably going to be first-round draft picks. That said, what the hell is going on at Auburn? Tank Bigsby probably saved Gus Malzahn's job today with getting a good win against an Ole Miss team that, I think is going to be good in a couple of years, if not next year. Just, he had it to go today. And then we got to talk about Alabama without Jalen Waddle. I understand that there's a lot of folks that feel like Alabama's a different team because they no longer have the services of one Jalen Waddle who is out for the season with a dislocated ankle. I look at John Mechie catching 7 passes for 151 yards, and I seem to think a little bit differently. I think they're going to be just fine, especially as you're built to run the football as much as you're built to throw the football. You had 96 yards rushing by Najee Harris. You had another 300-yard outing from one Mac Jones. You're fine. You get your defense under control, and you're fine. Tennessee, on the other hand, Jeremy Pruitt out here trying to lie to us and tell us that they're close. No, sir. No, sir. You are nowhere near close, sir. Not at all. You are actually sliding down. That's where you're headed. And this is all before the Pac-12 actually starts its season next month, in which USC, Oregon, Arizona State, I think, are all going to be there in some way, shape, or form. Wild day of college football in which I would be remiss if I didn't give Wake Forest tip of the cap to y'all. Getting your first win against a ranked opponent since 2018. Your first win against a ranked opponent at home since 2017 when you dispatched Vatek and you stopped Khalil Herbert from running for 100 yards in a 5th straight game, holding him to 87 all-purpose. Shouts to you. Also, Sam Hartman has the streak of 155 passes without an interception. Maybe Wake Forest will be good next year. Maybe they would have been good this year if Sage Frat would have been there. We'll never know. All right, that's it for me. Doses.